welcome back, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. If you are new here, my name is Michelle. I go by the Schnitt Crafter on pretty much all the social media platforms I am on, and my pronouns are she, her, and I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I will mostly be talking about cross stitch, but I also like to mix it up and talk about other things like that are interesting to me, and that is kind of going to continue on. So if you're new here, you'll notice this is titled episode 1. And if you're not new here, you will know that is maybe a bit of a lie and that I've been doing flosstube for over 3 years now. But why episode 1? So I have 2 young children. They are 3 and 4.5. I started my flosstube while I was like 8 months pregnant with my second. It seemed like a good time. I was going to be on mat leave. I was really into the community. I wanted to join it. My one cat is batting at my box of finishes. I don't know. 1 second. Odie, psst. Okay, there was a loose thread. It was very interesting. It is still very interesting. Odie. He is not usually a loose thread chaser, so that's fun. So like I said, I started my flosstube. I was doing somewhat consistently, and then, you would think that the newborn baby phase is harder, but honestly, it's the toddler and preschool phase that has been kicking our butts. They are so active, so engaged, so busy. There's very little time for me. And that's not to say I do the whole self-care. I make time for me, right? I have time for my hobbies. I have time to do things, but sitting down and filming and editing a flosstube was just too much at the time. And I did actually manage to record a few that I never posted, but then, between okay, I've got to edit, I've got to upload it, and I was like, okay, this has now been a month, it's old news. It's not, it wasn't that fun. And then the application I was using to edit my videos became very heavy onto the artificial intelligence. And I realized in this day and age that it's very hard to download a computer program, application, whatever, that does not integrate or use AI in some sort. However, I do have the power and the choice to pick something that the option is there. It's a new technology. Every application, everything has it, but I can choose to use applications that use it less or are not as forcible, grabbing it and shoving it down my throat. This is the Odie, the thread chaser. Hello, buddy. He is an old grandpa orange boy. It's still causing trouble. Oh yes, hello. So I kind of had to, the stuff I was already working on was on that, and it was just like this huge thing. And I'm a huge advocate of doing what you need to do for yourself, right? If something is not sparking joy, you don't need to keep working on it. You don't need to commit to it, you can move on. And that was where I kind of had to accept where my flosstube was at. I was feeling pressured because I had all these videos sitting in queue that I had never posted, and it seemed silly to post them, and that was all going on, and so that was this block, right? And it's I was trying to tell myself, just post them, don't edit them, just post them, get up, start fresh, move on. And then the idea was why not just start fresh, right? Start completely fresh. It's been 3 years. I've changed a lot in the 3 years, and so I'd like to reintroduce myself. So hi, I'm Michelle. I like to stitch things. I would like to do more than stitch things, but as previously mentioned, I have small children, so right now I'm focusing on the stitching things. It would be cool, because I know most first flosstubes, they start off with a whip parade and hi, this is who I am, this is what I stitch on. I'm hoping most of you are already subscribed, and so you already know who I am and what I stitch on, but I'm not doing a whip parade. I have ADHD. I don't know if that was not already apparent to everybody in these first few minutes, but I have ADHD. I have poor impulse control. I see something shiny, I start it. And then it stops sparking joy, and there's something new and shiny, Patreon is a curse for this. And so I just keep moving on to the next best thing. I'm working on it. I always have grandiose plans of how I'm going to focus on things. I actually have a couple finishes, since the last time I posted a flosstube, so it does work. I personally would not be interested as an introduction to a channel being here's 80 whips of a day or two's worth of work. It's not, I would not be interested in watching that, and I would not be interested in editing it again. 1 second. I'm back. Sorry, my partner had to run in to grab something from the house, and he was trying to be very sneaky, but we have a little dings on the door so we can tell if, you know, children or cats sneak outside. So yeah, and this is why this is a case in point of, you know, of how this is going. So train of thought where I was before I got interrupted. Yeah, so I'm just not interested in editing that. I'm hoping that, you know, as I work on things, like I did this year, as I put everything into a big bin and I'm just working from that bin. I'm trying to get rid of object blindness, and so I'm trying to work on it and just cycle through a few things at a time and slowly finish it. Because like, if the project is under like 4,000 stitches, I can get it done within a month. You know, it's just that matter of focus. The problem is I started a lot of projects that were over 10,000 stitches, and that takes a little, my attention span diminishes on those. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's who I am. That's why I'm not doing a whip parade. I will maybe try and do one. I'm thinking maybe I'll try and do something like seasonally. Will I pull out like all my spring ones, when I pull out all my summer ones, things like that, and like trying to keep it like a little bit more seasonal, which is kind of funny because I would not have called myself a seasonal stitcher. I'm very much like, I like my spooky Halloween, and I like my animals, like especially owls. Like that's what I like to stitch on. But also, as I've gotten a little bit older, my kids have gotten a little bit older, like I love decorating. I love having that essence of homemade in the house. And so I'm like, oh, actually, I do want to have like celebrate, you know, have spring ornaments. And oh, I do want to have like more than just like the Halloween and Christmas decorations. I'm actually on the hunt for like a nice dough bowl and like maybe like a nice tiered stand just to, you know, seasonally swap things out. You know, that also requires me finishing things. I think probably one of these days I'll have to pull up my big wad of finished stuff that I have not finished. Yeah, so I'm going to try and stick to the traditional, I say traditional, there's no such, it's whatever you want to do. I'm going to try and stitch to a floss tube format where, you know, I did my little intro, this is what's going on, right? Check that off, and then I'm going to show you, if I had fully finishes, I'll show you fully finished. I will show you my finishes. I'll show you what I've worked on. And then I do have haul. I don't always have haul, but I'll show like a little bit of a haul or like interesting finds, and then maybe talk about some books and some other things that I find interesting in my life, because I like hearing about the little chit chats about that, you know, about what people are up to, what they're doing. Yeah, so my youngest, my baby, she turned 3 at the end of January, and she's very into dinosaurs, and so I had been working on these and I finished them. They are the Quirky Quaker dinosaurs, stitched in the Cottage Garden threads on Grass Stain by Mislaid Pages. They are fully finished. I gave them like this to her for her birthday. I have some dinosaur fabric that I'm ordering from a quilt shop, and then I will get that finished as a wall decoration. I just did not manage to get that done beforehand because I'm waiting for the fabric still, because this is a good thing about impulse control, because if I'm buying something within Canada, there's the shipping, right? So I don't want to buy like 1 yard of fabric and pay like $15 shipping, like no. So, but then at the same time, I have to budget myself in. Oh, okay, if I'm going to be buying this much fabric to get free shipping, it needs to budget in. And this is very helpful for the ADHD, because I feel like if I lived if I lived in the States, or shipping from the States to Canada was not as silly, I would be doing a lot more impulse starts, because like I would love to be part of like Bestitch Me, Mystic Fabrics, Under the Sea, Bestitch Me, Mystic Fabrics, Color and Cotton, like all those like clubs, right? Like I would love that, but it just does not make sense for me, because the fabric is like the club costs like what, I don't know, like $30-$40, right? And then shipping is $20, and you just, I can't impulse buy fabric from the States. I have to very carefully plan it, which is not to say there's fabric shops here, but it's like Picture This Plus, Weeks Dye Works, which I don't use, Zwagart, Perman, Fox and Rabbit, yeah, which is good, but it's expensive because it's imported from Australia. Some local hand dyer that I like to use, but a lot of times I just kind of experiment with my own fabric dyeing, because there's only so many options, and I can ship things to my brother-in-law in the States, or like friends who I know are going to see maybe once a year, but that requires a lot of planning, and I don't have that level of planning. So one of my other big finishes, this is like from like my first couple months on flosstube, was the Love Bug Sampler by Sprouting Lupine. I'm so glad to have finally gotten this done. It feels kind of fresh to start off, to reimagine my flosstube challenge and be like, here is one of my oldest whips finally finished. I honestly, part of me wants to restitch this. It was a struggle getting through like the last 500 because, as you can see, my border is really off. Because back then I was being very careful with my fabric, and it's like, well, what am I gonna do with like a margin, like potentially if I saved myself like this much a fabric strip to use, that's silly. I'm not gonna use that for anything. Like there was no fabric saved by starting it where I did, but me back then, that's what I was going for. And I stitched on a very, like, a lot of my fabric haul is thrifted and like secondhand. So this is like a rose like pink Ada, and it's on the thicker side. It's on the thicker side. I wish I could, I wish you could share textures, but like it's on the thicker side. And so it was easy to stitch on at the beginning, but it's not as pleasant as now that I'm more experienced. But like I said, I powered through it. I got it done. And I immediately want to restitch this on like with better choices. But then I also have so much from Sprouting Lupine I want to get done. Like, I did not let myself start any other like of her Valentine's Day samplers because this one was hanging over my head. And it's like, but like, now I want to do that. So that is one of those. I also finished Quirky Quaker Watermelon. This is on a 32 count Summer Breeze by Jackson Fiber Arts. One of the last times my brother-in-law was coming, Jackson Fiber Arts, they are on Etsy and they sell like samples of their fabric. So it's like hemp linen, I think, and it's like 5x5, right? So it's a very nice little ornament cut. And I basically ordered a whole bunch of 32 count to go to my brother-in-law to bring to my house because I got like, these are like the perfect size for like Quirky Quakers or like other little ornaments. Yeah, so I did the Quirky Quaker Watermelon, which is a freebie that Deanna of Darling and Whimsy designed for Palestine. It's a freebie, but the recommendation and the suggestion is that you donate to a charity cause that will benefit Palestine, which I did. And then I just took forever to get around to doing it because I wanted to pick colors. And yeah, and I use mostly Burn & Nettle because Darling and Whimsy and Burn & Nettle go together like peanut butter and jelly. So like it's a one-off for the border and the watermelon. And the white actually is a Burn & Nettle. Yeah, so this is good. My goal is I want to kind of have a statement wall of the various charity and craftivism pieces I have bought over the years. I live in Alberta. Alberta, if you're Canadian and follow the news, you know what I'm talking about. If you're international, you maybe don't, but the Alberta government has been making a lot of choices lately that do not align with my beliefs at all. And it has been this sliding downward slope of just, what fresh hell am I in today? Like, sometimes I don't know if I am reading a satire like newsline or an actual newsline. Like, this is how ridiculous this government has been. And they're just speed running to what end, I don't know. So I would like to, I don't want to say virtue signal, but I would like to try and make my home representative that this is a place that does not stand with what my government is doing. Which is hard because I think a lot of people maybe feel that these days, and it feels silly to just be like, well, here's my little cross stitch on my wall. But like, I mean, we don't have any yard signs out at the moment. I don't know if you can actually hear how insanely windy it is right now. That's partially one of the reasons why, because the wind destroys everything. My neighbor's a nurse, and she tried to have like a nurse sign out, but it just kept going away, and then it actually just becomes litter because it gets ripped out and down the street before you know it. So, and I took part in the recall petitions, which have more or less failed, which is disappointing because there was only one or two candidates I think had sufficiently pissed off their ridings to have a stand, but there was hope that maybe we could pressure the government into doing a by-election or just something. And right, so I was involved in that, you know, because that's something you could do within your neighborhood. And mostly I've been just trying to build community, and so sometimes stitching these things in public is how I build community. This was a finish I did. This is on 40 count helix, picture this plus, and this was the tea sampler from Stitch Pout's Patreon for January. It was the first time I actively kept up with a stitch along and finished it, so that was a personal challenge that I met for January, and was quite the big change of subject. It's just, I could go on about this all day, and I do all day. It's just, you know, you gotta move on. You know, I'm living in it, other people are living in similar things, and it's just, you're not alone. There's people that care. There's people that are fighting for a better future. And sometimes that better future is the soft and whimsy of tea. Yeah. Yeah. This is basically how I do most of my stitching. He lies on me like this, and then I stitch around him. So there's cat hair on everything, and it's his. He's a very tolerant boy. This is my baby. But no, like literally, this is how most of my stitching is. Like, I sit over on the left hand of that couch because it's like a sectional, and then this is more or less how he sits on me unless a kid evicts him. You're a star of the show? Okay. Yeah, now he's mad at me because I'm not like actually like relaxing. We were watching Bridgerton this morning, so he was into that. So yeah, on that note, I guess I'll did various things. This is also one of my older whips. It's Wakanda Forever by Parker Bart. I was stitching this for my partner's first Father's Day. Our oldest is 4.5. But like, actually, you'll see I actually centered this one pretty nicely for beginner me. And it was going on pretty well. I think it was one of those ones I missed the Father's Day deadline, so then I kind of put it aside and I moved on to other things. Should probably work on that one. I'm putting it over there because it's light out, so I can work on that. So yeah, that was one I was working on. I actually got a lot of the bottom border done. I'm hoping to have that finished. So I'm showing that now. That one doesn't have a project bag. A lot of my stuff doesn't actually have project bags. I'm gonna say that now. A lot of my stuff just kind of lives as is. This one has a nice project bag. Is this, I'm trying to think who did this project bag. I think this is a Soterius. Yeah, I think this is Soterius. My Halloween bags. And I'm working on the Cottagecore Witch sampler that was on Bad Stitch's Patreon. Show that. I'm doing it on 40 count, so it's little, it's wee. This fabric is a local dyer, so the Grateful Thread. She basically only does one-offs that she sells at retreats. And I started this one, and it's going well. Like, I did have some miscounts of the border, and I'm just having to like slowly work my way through. Amanda Bad Stitch actually provided 2 different color palettes in it, and it was really fun. So I picked the less cutesy pink one with this one. And I'm trying to finish it because I would like to have this floss back, and it's one of those ones that it feels so close to being done, but because I'm stitching on 40 count, it's taking forever because of my eyeballs. But I think, I don't know, like I was going through a moment where I was just really into like these like fill in the motif square ones. I'm still kind of into it, like as a sampler. Like I'm into that moment. That is the vibe I'm feeling. So in January, yeah, because I mean we're at the end of March, but January, as like most of the world, it feels like, I got very into Heated Rivalry. It was actually really funny, because I've read the books. So like the show came out, so I was like, okay, and I actually do enjoy a good hockey romance, so I read the books. managed to get them all out through the library before they really blew up. That was incredible. Go me. So I read the books. I was like, okay, this is, you know, could see where the show has definitely improved on the source material in many ways. I'm not actually fully seen the show yet because my partner's not really into it, and I don't really want to watch it with my kids. They're a little young for some of those questions it would raise. I don't, you know, not so I've watched, like, slowly getting through it, and also because I don't have a subscription because I'm that person. But one thing that was really nice about it was, like, everyone got really into it. They were really excited, and then everybody starts stitching toonies. And toonies, oh, I left my pattern booklet up there. It's okay, I've got enough of that. I actually had toonies kitted up for a year and a half, 2 years now, because first I was waiting for it, because I didn't go to the Stitch North it was released at. That was like the year I kind of got into social media, cross stitch, yeah. So I didn't get that year, which is where it was like released and sold. And then I really liked it, so I was just kind of waiting for it to be released. So through Dee's newsletter, I definitely remember getting this and another pattern while driving back from my parents' house, like on the highway. Like my partner was driving, like, wait, give me your phone. You're like trying to, like, I need to buy this, and getting the paper pattern shipped to my house. So that was like step one. And then it only uses 3 colors. I'll just give the reveal right now. So it uses 3 colors, like a black, a green, and a white. And the called for was burn and nettle. And I mean, not a lot of people were stitching it until recently, so I didn't really have a lot of like, oh, that's a good alternative color. So I ended up the next Stitch North getting my friend Melissa to, because she was at the weekend that burn and nettle was vending, to buy the colors. They only had 2 of the 3 colors, these 2, which I got, right? So I got those 2 colors, and I was like, okay, like the green's not used as much. I'll get that. And then at another retreat, my friend Megan was working on her own version of toonies, and I was like mentioning, like, oh yeah, I've got that mostly kitted up. I just don't have Pirate Glass, which is like the green. It's a really beautiful green, which I can't really show because I only have like a couple strands. And like Megan is the most generous person. She's like, you don't need that much green. Like, here, what count are you stitching it on? Okay, like here, like let me just make you like a little floss drop of what you need. So, like, I mean, I had no excuses. And at that point, I was doing a Canadian pattern of a Canadian icon, like emblem, with Canadian floss. So I had to get a Canadian fabric, and there's only so many dyers. And so this is Kaylee Tent Stitches at the lake, which I got before the whole at the cottage thing happened, okay? I got this over a year ago. And I was like, this is gonna be perfect. It's because, like, the pattern's stitched on, in the photos it looks purple, but it's more of like a brown, I think, the cedar linen. But I thought this would be really cute. Like, it's a nice light green, so it pops. Because I was thinking, like, it's a very blue tone green, and it's got the interesting streaks, which I tried to center up with the loon head there. So I thought that was like a really interesting one. And so, like, everyone stitching it was, you know, the kick in the butt that I needed to finally get mine out and start it. Because I am a bandwagoner. I am. I will fully admit it. And this is just living in a little project bag I made myself. So it's very Canadian. It's very, very, very me. So that was the one. And the other one, I've been working on a couple other pieces. I like to bring cross stitch to work on during my breaks. Just like small pieces, things aren't too hard. It just helps. And so, like, talking about starting toonies, everyone was stitching, like, talking about loons at the beginning of January for one reason, and then we were all talking about loons at January for a different reason because of Minnesota and ice. I took that as a good time to start the free pattern by Witch's Garden Crafts, Chinga La Miga. I've got most of the coloring done. This is a scrap piece of fabric I mostly just hacked to the right one. I was looking at dyeing it into like a fun color, but Michelle of Witch's Garden Crafts picked such a nice bold pattern, like bold colors, like because it's teals and oranges. I was like, no, actually, maybe I'll keep it simple because, you know, when like stitch my feelings. I'm a big fan of stitching my feelings, and that is one of the ones I do because obviously it's been over a month, but like everything is still going on, and I find it just so hard to believe that they're not going unchallenged, but no, they're being challenged, but like their actions, they are getting away with it for the moment. They are being challenged on it, but they are getting away with it at the moment, and there will be a reckoning. And it's just unfortunate to have to live through the times while we wait for the reckoning. It's on that same note too, we moved into February, and I started Will You Free My Palestine, which was a free, again, I say freebie, but it's like free, but like the sentiment is that you offer a donation to the, in this case, it was the Giving Branch, not the Giving Branch, the Olive Tree. I'd have to look it up. And that was like, you know, like, hey, here's some patterns, please donate to my cause. And I did, again, like it's a pink on pink. Once I get more of the red in, it will show up more. However, it was really interesting because I was working on that, and then the designer's Instagram account just kind of disappeared. I was able to still find her link tree, so I could still, you know, share that information, but I feel like, I'm hoping it is just censorship from Instagram, which is a terrible thing to hope for. You know, like, oh yes, well, it's not terrible considering other options, but it's like, I hope you were silenced from like social media and not in another way. And I posted comments on other Tetris and Palestinian activists who have done like podcasts and collaborations and such with this designer. I have not heard back, but also it's kind of hard to reach out, and if you don't have, like, I was basically cold calling, be like, hi, I've not haven't interacted with you before, but you did a podcast with this person. Do you know what's up with this person? Yeah, so that was an interesting start to February. February was also Lunar New Year, which is also Chinese New Year. I'm really working on that. I've spent the last while calling it Lunar New Year, and I saw a really interesting call out about calling it Lunar New Year. It kind of erases, like, I remember the push to call it Lunar New Year was to be more inclusive, because there's a lot of New Year's around this time, and that was meant to be inclusive, but then somebody pointed out that was actually erasing identities to lump them under Lunar New Year, because not all of them are related to the moon. Like, there was a bunch of New Year's celebrations happening around the same time, and other holidays linked to them, like the lunar calendar or the lunar solar calendar, but they're not all monolithic. There's different traditions and like interpretations, even though they're all from a similar Pan-Asian region. So I'm working on that because we celebrate Chinese New Year. So that is the one we celebrated. And it was really fun. My kids dressed up. They love their outfits. I posted. And I was really working. I really want to have this part finished. I did not get it finished. I picked this project. It's called The Year of the Needle. It's by Palms and Knots Stitchery, who is actually a local designer to me. And it is this massive, massive zodiac pattern. So I think I'm like 3K stitches in, and I've just got that much done. And I'm doing it all in etoile because I want this to be a family heirloom for my children. If you're interested in this too, like you don't have to do this massive one. Palms and Knots, Cheryl, she has a bunch that are just like the smaller motifs in like a much more reasonable frame size. It's just for me and my family, it would be a centerpiece to have as a big cultural display. So like it's going to be this whole piece. And this is Gold Streak by Kaylee Tent Stitch. It's not showing up in video really well, but there's like little subtle like golden shimmers. Because it's not opalescent. I think she like painted it with like a gold fabric paint or something. So there's just like little bits of gold. And then, so yeah, I wanted to get the horse done for the Lunar New Year to have it done. However, the horse is chonky. It could not have been a smaller zodiac animal this year. It was the horse. And I miscounted on the mane, and I had to frog. And frogging etoile is miserable. So I did not get that done. And then like, this is one of these projects, right? I think this overall project is just over 47,000 stitches, which is quite large. And it's one of those things, so I was like, okay, like how many stitches do I have to do to finish? And I think like a reasonable time frame was like 4,000 stitches, and I was like, that is not happening. I stitch 100 to 300 stitches a day, maybe a little bit more if I get really lucky, and like it's not happening. So I was like, okay, this is a long-term commitment. So it's one of those ones I'm just like, I was really motivated for the Lunar New Year, like the Chinese New Year. See, look, I'm catching that, right? It is a conscious reterming I'm working on. So I was working to have it done, and it just didn't happen, and it's kind of discouraged me from picking it up probably, but it's like one of those ones I'm like, I need to keep picking up each month, even if I only do a couple hundred, to get progress. You don't move forward if you don't work on anything. But I got distracted by fun things because what do you know? One of the ones I've been really working on, this is Closely Kept #1 by Shaded Stitchery. I picked this up because I started in June last year, and I got like maybe this top little petal bit done. So I've actually done a lot in the last couple days, but my friends Nati and Stitchy Nati and Thick Threads Eli, I want to say Ellie, but it's Eli. They started like a little Closely Kept style, and I was like, okay, that's a good excuse to bring out my whip. So I've been working on it. The fabric I dyed myself, and the floss is a hand dye by Rwanda. I got it at Stitch North. I really like a tone on tone, and most of the ones that Nuri is using, they do have like a tone on tone. So I'm gonna have to keep playing with that because I think we're up to 5. And yeah, like the one, yeah, no, and like I'm stitching 1/1 on 28 count. I've committed to that for better or for worse because I think they're usually under 2,000 stitches, so it's not terrible. But I think these would look so sweet in like little frames, because that is like the origin too, is like they were like originally displayed in case tin types. So I don't know how big a case tin type usually would have been, but like looking at the picture here, I feel like they were smaller. And so I'd like to try and like recreate that sense of scale, just like and conversation starters. And like there's so much like information on the back, like Nuri's done on this. Yeah. Yes. So that was one of the ones I did. And then at work, Stitch North, I had a bit of a week where I was not feeling my stitchy bug at all. And like, it's fine, that happens. But then I was like, I need to do something to get back into it because I have too much stitching to not stitch. And so I pulled out this little, this is from Canadian Stitchery, and it was like in a Stitch North. And it's just gonna be like a wooden ornament with Roxy floss. So I thought this was gonna be nice, low stakes, really simple, and like a good work project, which it is. The problem is threading a needle through wood, really, I keep accidentally dropping it back down through the hole. So it's gonna be done, like it'll be done soon enough. It's just kind of like, wow, what did I commit myself to? And then the last thing I'm working on is I'm finishing off this stitch for an old coworker. Her grandmother started this and is no longer able to see. And it's in, and like basically it's like she just wants it done, and it is the B sampler. And like what is mostly left is a double border. I'm just gonna try and hold that up. Yeah, so like it's just like a floral border and then like a checkerboard border, and I feel like that won't take, the checkerboard especially will go pretty fast. Yeah, and then like she has all the supplies, and it's so funny because there's actually a Cosmo floss in this, because like I guess she kitted it up at the quilting store, and it's, I don't even know how old this is. Yeah, I wish these magazines would give me a date. Freckles Quilts no longer exists, so that's like one thing. I think from 2003. I think she started this in 2003, so that makes sense for the Cosmo. Yeah, I want to say this is from 2003. So her grandmother started this, basically when she was a baby, and then, wants to get it done but is unable to do it. And I was like, it was so sweet. She brought the whole project in. She's like, you can say no to this, but I know you cross stitch, and like, could you just let me know? And I was like, okay, like, let me see this before I commit to anything. And I was like, okay, it's 2 bits of border. That's not end of the world. It's on like 14 pounds. I will get this done and back to her as soon as I can. That's something I need to prioritize. Okay, the last little bit is some haul. Some interesting haul. The first one, this is kind of part of my, like, a late Christmas gift. This is handmade on Vancouver Island, where my sister lives. December studio, and it's just a really cute magnet. I saw this designer and I basically sent it to my sister. I was like, hey, could you do some shopping for me? Because I meant for her to buy me some prints and like bring them with her, but she decided it was gonna be my Christmas gift. So she's not out of the woods yet. She has to go back and actually buy me some prints. But it was a cute magnet. Snowy owls are one of my favorites. So, but no, wait, that's a barn owl. Sorry. I was going off the fact it was white, but barn owl because of the face. Can't fool me. Yeah, and at the same note too, my mom was like destashing in her house, and I took some linens I think my grandmother made. Like, these are like table runners, I think. I'm gonna use them in like a display, I think, from like my cross stitch finishes. Because these are like beautiful handmade hardanger. Like, look at that. Hardanger scares me. And like there's like some staining on here. Like, part of me like thinks this would look so sweet underneath like some, like on a table with some plants on top of it, but like I also don't want to do that with plants and water and dirt because they are beautiful. It's just like I want to incorporate these, and I got 2 of them. This one's different. This one has like more of a bouquet of flowers there, right? So like these are like sideboard runner, I don't even know, but I feel like I want to put them maybe on top of like the bookcases, just as like a display of handiwork. Because like I said, my mom was going through the linens and she, like, here you go. And I also got this hand towel that was cross-stitched by my grandma. Like, look how sweet that is. Yeah, and like also like, I know, you know, it's rude to show people's backs, but like grandma had it going on there. And like one of the other things we're using right now is my youngest is very much into her baby dolls, and she likes putting them to bed and tucking them in. And she was stealing our large blankets, so we ended up getting her some napkins and some older face towels as like baby size blankets. And one of them is a face towel that my grandma crocheted borders on for my mom when my mom moved out, because my mom wanted a peach bathroom. I think you can tell this was like late 80s, early 90s, right? And like the crochet is still hanging up, and now it's tucking my daughter's babies in to sleep at night. And it's just like the sweetest thing. And I also got some haul. My friend Alicia was destashing, and so she sent me patterns I was interested in. So now I have to figure out what I'm doing with those and when. I'm just gonna quick flip through. So I got Blue Fowler, Gather with Joy, and like I really like the border on that. I don't want to stitch. I'm not a house stitcher, so I'm thinking of like, what could I do in the space of the house, or like do something else, right? Because like that border is fantastic, like beautiful border. I got the Witchy Stitchers Anatomical Heart from the Hearts for Pam collection, which I've been wanting. And Cottage Garden Thread's going to be the ruin of me. I got Kristen, the Arctic Ocean Mermaid, which I'm really a fan of. Both my girls are really into mermaids right now, and I would, you know, I would just love to have diversity of mermaids up on the wall. I got the Prairie Schooler from her too. I just want to stitch the birds. For a second, I thought about stitching the quilts and then the birds and like as ornaments, but I'm like, you know what? I just want to stitch the birds and be done with it. Deck the Halls by the Drawn Thread. I think I have a really nice piece of fabric already for that, and it's not going to be too, it feels like it's not hard because it's 68 by 68. It's called for dinky dyes. I can obviously you can sub those out, but then there's 2 stitching. One is with 1/1, like for the stems. So it's like not back stitching, you're doing 1/1. And the one I was really excited about getting was Nevermore by Lila's Studio. I've been wanting to stitch this one for a while. A couple of my friends have it as whips. And they all have really beautiful conversions of like floss and fabric. Like, I think my one friend is, neither of them are using the culver. One is doing like the forbidden fiber floss one with the fabric, and the other one had like a whole custom one. And like, I like really both of them. Like, I'm not usually a huge fan of Quakers, but then like these Quakers, the complexity calls to me. So I'm really into that. Except that's a big project. It is 161 by 235. So I have to get a nice big piece of fabric and make decisions. I'm not good at making decisions. Because I think you have to really focus and pick out what you want. Because I don't really want to use weeks, and I don't really want to, yeah, go from there. So that is all the cross stitching stuff. And that is what we're at. I want to maybe talk about books and maybe talk a little bit about hockey. And then I'm done. This is a book I've been reading. It is Falling in a Sea of Stars, which is book 7 or book 8 from Kristen Britton's Green Rider series. I don't even, sorry, I'm gonna actually count. I should have figured out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's the 8th book in the series. I think I've been reading this series for 20 years now. She pretty much publishes a book every 5 years. I definitely recommend at least the first 4 books. They filled 5 books? They filled a hole in my Lord of the Rings heart. Except, you know, Kerrigan's like an amazing protagonist. It's just, it's not even like her writing like needs to be pared down. Like, I've read writers from like, okay, where's your editor? Like, can we like, you know, get you back on track? It's just, we're very slowly spinning our wheels. We are progressing very glacially. Stuff happens. The plot is advancing. It's just, I feel like we're still at the same spot like every 500 pages. Like, we're just so slowly. And like, it's a beautiful world. I love her writing. I love living in it. It's just, I want to tap the gas pedal a little faster. I want to get a couple more answers, just a little. And like, it's not an ebook, so this has been real fun to try and read with toddlers. As I will show, sorry, the bookmark was also from my sister from that studio. So yeah, this is what I've been mostly reading. I went through a little hockey romance binge, like Elle Kennedy, Sarah Bowen, and Rachel Reed, because that was just the mood. Been reading a whole bunch of other books. Nothing else has really stuck out to me that I want to talk about. Like, I have a story graph. I'm being pretty well at updating it. Just nothing has really, you know, like, yes, this is worth talking about and rambling about. I just kind of went into a little sports phase, entertainment-wise, with the Olympics, which, Team Canada, that was pretty rough. That was pretty rough. I've only started following the PWHL the last year and a half, 2 years. So in previous years, like, I watched the women's Olympic hockey game all the time, but I didn't really know a lot of people because the leagues were not as publicized. Like, you know, like there was a women's league, so like we had a team in Calgary up until like 2018, I think, the Calgary Inferno. But like we had the leagues, but it just wasn't as social media exposed, marketed, right? So I was basically popping in every 4 years to these players, and you know, it was good. But like, after following the professional women's hockey league, I was much more committed, and like, I like people on both teams. Like, it was a really good game to the end. It was a little sucky that Pooh was injured, so she wasn't at her best, but like, I'm really happy that Hillary Knight was able to get her win, like her retirement and her engagement, and that Layla Edwards was able to be the first Black American athlete to get a gold in women's hockey. Like, that's fantastic. Like, in American hockey, like, that's fantastic. I can't, but I didn't want Britta Curl to get a medal. That's just how it is. Like, the Professional Women's Hockey League is a lot better on inclusivity than the NHL. Like, hands down it is. But Britta Curl, she's a transphobe. That's all I gotta say. So her getting a dirty hit on Ambrose, who is a openly out queer woman, and the penalty, and near the end of the game, it was just a sour taste on what was otherwise a very good game of hockey. And then, oh boy, the men's hockey game. That was brutal. That was brutal. Like, I mean, Crosby was out. Like, it was really good hockey. And, like, I'm not going to say, oh, I didn't want people on the American team to win, the Chukuk brothers. I don't like them. Like, but the thing is, I didn't like a couple people on the Canadian team, too. I think they also play dirty. So, the camera is shaking because my other cat's investigating. So I didn't, you know, but it's like, okay, like, every team has some people that I'm like, well, about, like, I think they were more questionable. Okay, stop shaking the camera. Right? So it was a really hard fought game. It was good. I was like, oh God, those idiots won a gold over my boys. That's hard, but oh well, right? And like they brought Johnny Gaudreau's daughter and son out onto the ice. That was really emotional. Johnny Hockey played in Calgary for 10 years. I met him many times. He seemed like a very genuine, good person. Like his impact on the league and hockey in general. You know, he was one of the, I want to say, I think he was one of the good ones. So having his kids brought down on the ice, you know, very emotional. Like, okay, fine. Like, didn't really want you guys to win, but like you did have that iconic tooth smashing and like, you know, like it was a good hockey game. Like for the most part, right? It's like, you know, you have to have a rivalry, you sometimes have to lose. You can't always be the dominant team. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna lick my wounds. This sucks, but like, you know, Crosby has his gold-winning goal, like in the 2010 Olympics. Like I can be sad about this and then move on. And then, no, actually, you know, there's sore losers and then there's sore winners. And whew, boy, that fumble, like just the trajectory of them being like, yeah, USA goal, like first goal, you know, right, to just, that was something to watch happening. I was trying to like lick my wounds and, you know, hockey feelings and not watch, like, you know, the USA celebrating, because, you know, it's like, I'll deal with, like, yeah, okay, fine, those stupid idiot brothers got their medal, but like, okay, there's some good people, like, you know, because like a lot of the players on the US team do play for Canadian teams. I was like, okay, fine, like, I guess those people are good, like, they did, you know, fine, like, I you know, nothing's perfect. And then it was just, they tanked it. Holy, did they tank any goodwill? Yeah, that has been an interesting repercussions to watch navigate out. And I'm really excited because at 5 o'clock, my Montreal Victoire plays. So I get to watch a game of good hockey with my poo and pretend that the last week didn't really happen. But yes. Yeah. So that's my thoughts. Like, they're not really deep thoughts on hockey. I think everyone else has really already said it better, taken it better down. Like, the really, like, you had to make jokes about women in sports like that. The women's team just also had a very similar hard-fought victory. Like, there was historic, like, there, and you're just gonna make them the butt of the joke. But hey, they're getting a whole party in Vegas, and they got McDonald's. So I mean, I think that says a lot. And I'm interested to see how the PWHL does in the second half of the season. Now that there's been a lot more attention drawn to them. And like I said, pick your team. I support Montreal. Just know that there's a couple people to watch out for, but there's a lot more people to celebrate. You just have to, I think it's mostly in Minnesota Frost. Yes. Okay. That was my little ramble about the Olympics. Like, it was a fun time to watch. Like, I love the Olympics. I love seeing people do, especially the Winter Olympics, like watching the ridiculous stunts off the slope was something. And then just the joy in figure skating this year. Like, my oldest has been wanting to figure skate, and it was nice to see that there were some real positive role models coming out of the sport that did not exist the last time I really checked into the figure skating world. So yeah, little Olympics rant over, and I'm gonna go finish Bridgerton and then watch some women's hockey and go Montreal, go Pooh, go Pooh and Stacy. Okay, be signing off now. Bye.